Hello, dear listeners. Today we have another journey waiting for us. Isn't that right, Jacob?
That's right, Joy. Today we are travelling to Nicaragua. And some of you might remember, in the comments of our last video, we said we would do an episode on the history of Nicaragua.
Well, today's that day. We keep our promises.
We always do.
Okay, first things first. Where is Nicaragua?
Central America, the thin strip of land that connects North America and South America. Nicaragua is right in the middle, bordered by Honduras to the north and Costa Rica to the south.
And it is the largest country in Central America, bigger than you might think. Bordered. Friends, when a country is bordered by another, it means they share a border, a line where one country ends and another begins.
An invisible line, of course. And the name, Nicaragua. Where does it come from?
One theory says the name comes from an indigenous chief named Nicaragua, who lived near a great lake. The Spanish may have added the word agua, meaning water, because the region is full of lakes and rivers.
Indigenous. Friends, the original people who lived in a place before colonization, before Europeans arrived. Nicaragua had many indigenous peoples, with rich cultures, languages, and traditions.
So, who were the first Europeans to arrive?
Christopher Columbus. In 1502, on his final voyage, he sailed along the coast of Nicaragua. But he never came ashore. The real conquest began in 1522, American countries, but it broke apart quickly.
By 1838, Nicaragua was on its own, a fully independent nation, and immediately, chaos.
Exactly, Joy. Two cities, León and Granada, had completely different political views. Liberals in León, conservatives in Granada, and they fought constantly.
Civil war, a war between different groups inside the same country. Nicaragua had plenty of those. And then, 1855, something very strange happened. An American adventurer named William Walker arrived in Nicaragua and declared himself president
Of Nicaragua, a country that was not his. He reinstated slavery. He declared English the official language. He wanted to turn all of Central America into an American territory.
Friends, reinstated brought something back that had been removed. Walker brought back slavery, which had already been abolished. That was so bad.
It was one of the most extraordinary moments in Nicaraguan history. But the Nicaraguans fought back, and they won. Walker was eventually captured and executed in 1860.
And the Battle of San Jacinto, September 14th, 1856, is still celebrated as a national holiday in Nicaragua today.
Now, the 20th century. And this is where it gets very complicated. In 1912, the United States sent Marines to Nicaragua, and they stayed for 20 years.
Marines, soldiers from the US Marine Corps, a military force often used for operations abroad. The US had economic and strategic interests in Nicaragua. They wanted to control the region.
But not everyone accepted this. A man named Augusto Cesar Sandino, a rebel leader, fought against the American occupation for years. Guerrilla war, a type of fighting where small groups use surprise attacks against a larger military force. Sandino was a master of guerrilla war.
The Americans eventually left in 1933, but before they left, they trained a Nicaraguan military force, the National Guard. and they put a man in charge of it.
Anastasio Somoza Garcia. And in 1934, Somoza ordered the assassination of Sandino, had him killed. And then, in 1937, he took power himself. The Somoza dictatorship had begun.
Dictatorship. A system of government where one person has complete and absolute power. No free elections, no opposition allowed. The Somoza family ruled Nicaragua for 42 years. Father, then son, then another son.
3 members of the same family, controlling a whole country for 4 decades. They were brutal. They were corrupt. They took money that was meant for the people.
Yes, Jacob, and listen this. In 1972, a massive earthquake destroyed Managua. That was terrible. Thousands died. 250,000 people lost their homes. And Somoza, instead of helping, took much of the international aid for himself. Can you imagine that?
Incredible. Friends, international aid, money and resources sent from other countries to help after a disaster. But that was the moment many Nicaraguans said, enough.
Yes, because in 1961, a revolutionary movement had already been forming, the Sandinistas, named after Sandino, the hero who had fought the Americans. By 1979, after years of fighting, the Sandinistas launched their final offensive. And on July 19, 1979, Somoza fled the country.
The revolution had won. After 42 years of dictatorship, Nicaragua was free. But the cost was enormous. Around 50,000 people had died in the fight against Somoza.
The Sandinistas took power. They built schools, hospitals, launched a national literacy campaign.
Literacy, the ability to read and write. Nicaragua's literacy campaign in 1980 was recognized internationally as one of the most successful in history. But the United States was not happy. They saw the Sandinistas as communists, a threat. So in the 1980s, the US backed a rebel group called the Contras, who fought against the Sandinistas.
Another civil war, more death, more destruction. This became known as the Contra War. And in 1990, elections were held, and the Sandinistas lost.
Wait, they lost?
Yes, they lost. Violeta Chamorro won, and she became the first female president in Nicaraguan history. First female president.
For the next 16 years, different governments led Nicaragua, not Sandinistas.
But in 2006, Daniel Ortega ran for president again, and this time he won, democratically. Democratically, through free elections with the votes of the people.
And he is still president today, though his government has become increasingly controversial. Nicaragua, after everything it has been through, is still writing its story.
Colonization, independence, dictatorship, revolution, war. And now, a new chapter, still unfinished. And that is the history of Nicaragua. Jacob, let's do our word recap for our friends, the key words from today.
Sure. Indigenous, the original people of a land. Conquistadors, Spanish soldiers who conquered the Americas. Colony, land controlled by a foreign power. Declared independence, officially announced freedom. Civil war, A war between groups inside the same country. Marines, US military soldiers sent abroad.
And also, guerrilla war, fighting using surprise attacks against a larger force. Dictatorship, rule by one person with absolute power. International aid, help sent from other countries. Revolutionary, someone who fights to change a political system. Literacy, the ability to read and write. Rebel, someone who fights against the ruling power. Authoritarian, a government that restricts freedom and opposition.
13 words. One extraordinary country.
And to our listener who asked for this episode, thank you. This one was for you.
Friends, if you enjoyed this episode, leave us a like and subscribe to the channel.
And tell us in the comments, where are you from? And is there a country whose history you'd like us to cover next? We read everything. See you next time.
Stay safe.
Kisses!